Just like the rest of the world, the recent COVID-19 outbreaks are wreaking havoc on pro sports. More than 70 NBA players are in health and safety protocols, leading to 7 postponed games this month. 2 NFL games had to be pushed back after teams like Cleveland and Washington reported double-digit positive cases. The NHL even shut down 9 of its teams and suspended games with cross-border travel until after its Christmas break. But in light of these new variants, high infection rates, and holiday travel, are mere postponements enough? Or should we be looking at complete suspension of play? Welcome back, everyone, to your new your favorite sports show. I know the other 3 guests may have something to say about that, but I'm just kidding. Yes, it's hashtag this just in. Sorry about the week that we took off, but we needed to make some changes. And one of those is the intro that you just saw. But before we get into that, let me welcome my esteemed guest. It's been a long time, but you all know the Sports Force duo, and by that I mean Brian Bolster, and Joe Scurto. Guys, it has been too long. Welcome back.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead and repeat that. Sorry.
Yeah, guys, it's been too long. Y'all know the Sports Force duo and Brian Bolster and Joe Scurto. So, guys, welcome back on.
It has been too long, Justin, but I'm excited to be back on the show. Plenty to talk about. I see you repping the Packers gear. As always, they're killing it, man.
Told you. And Joe, I'm sorry I can't say the same with the Jets, but we'll avoid that topic for tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to think about that, but I appreciate you having me on. Same thing, Packers look good, but can't wait to talk some ball.
Indeed. And I don't have to introduce him, but I will, by the way. I mean, repping that sexy Packers gear. Basically, family on this show. Dwayne Marcus of G.O.A.T Talk with Marcus. How is it, my guy?
As you know, Justin, this week's been a little bit rough. I've been sick. My mother's been sick. My dad has COVID. So it's just, it's been a whirlwind of a week, but it's nice to kind of step away for a second and talk ball with Brian, who I've worked with before, you and Joe. It's going to be fun.
So sorry about your father, but unfortunately he makes it a perfect segue here because we're starting talking about COVID. And we have seen, just like the country and the world actually, that COVID has really hit us hard again with the new variants. And none so than the sports world. We've seen it hit the NHL, the NBA, and the NFL. So Joe, I'll start with you here. Considering this massive outbreak, we are in the middle of, flu season and a lot of holiday travel. Should all these leagues consider not just postponing games, but actually suspending play?
I think it's going to get to that point at some point if it keeps it up. I think with the NFL adjusting and finally saying, let's just throw the other thing out the window and postpone those games like they did. Obviously, we got 2 Mondays and 2 Tuesdays. I think that's something you're going to have to experience first, more so with the NFL. I think that complicates more things other than with the NBA and the NHL, who usually do play every day. So for the NFL, I think they're going to have to think more outside the box. But right now, unfortunate to say, it doesn't look good. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do take a week or 2 off. But I think the goal would be maybe try to get through the NFL season, maybe postpone the playoffs for a week or 2. But it's tough to say either way.
Do you think, Dwayne, like we're in a situation where we're postponing games all over the place? I think even Canada right now has, stopped or prohibited games that are going across the border. What should these leagues be looking to do as this variant becomes so transmissible?
Well, first off, if you're Adam Silver in the NBA, you're kind of sitting pretty in the event that you have to suspend play potentially and kind of downsize to a bubble format, because they've done that already and it worked quite successfully, right? And if you're the NFL, the bright side is what is there, like 3 weeks left in the regular season, and then you've got the playoffs, so there's not a lot left of the season. left for football. I don't know jack squat about hockey outside of the fact that the puck is black and they play on ice. But I'm sure that, if necessary, they'd figure out a way to make sure that they can, if they have to come back after suspending play that's happening. I mean, I don't know, maybe the NBA suspends play and Anthony Davis will go back to being good again. Like, who knows? Like, there are a lot of things that can happen from all this. But, I mean, it's not impossible. Like, we saw the NBA do it 2 years ago. Like I said, the NFL, it's not impossible for the NFL to do it because there's not that much time left. And last season, right, without them having to suspend games, they played all of the games were played. All 256 games were played last season. Even, some were played on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So it's not impossible. I'm sure all these leagues will figure it out. And I'm sure all these leagues have some sort of a plan, even if it's in the seeding process of figuring out what to do if it comes to that.
Brian, will they actually suspend the season? Because I'm guessing we're all figuring they should.
The NFL will not. I would be absolutely shocked if they did anything other than possibly move things back 1 week, just 1 week, just because they're going to postpone some games. They might add an extra bye week. Like, they might do something very minor, but the NFL train is going to keep rolling. Like, that's going to happen. I would be very shocked if they ended up pausing the season for, let's say, 2 weeks even. I'd be shocked. The NBA and the NHL, I think, are more likely to suspend play for 2 weeks or so. But even still, like, I don't see them shutting things down at all like we saw what's coming down to 2 years ago now, which is pretty wild to think about. But I just don't see it. Just the way the NBA has reacted since then, I think it was much more of a financial blow than anyone would like to admit. And at the end of the day, that's what this is. Like, this is a business. It's about money. And that's what the NFL, we're seeing right in front of our eyes. That's what they're doing. Like, they're going to move games to Tuesday because of money. Like, they're not willing to give up games. They had talked about a forfeit. It's not going to happen because you lose your TV money.
On the head, Brian, it's all about money. Should they? Yes. Because as much as this new variant has seemed to be weaker than all the others in terms of, like, it is less likely that you're going to die. The reality is, and this is how viruses go, the weaker they are, the more transmissible they are. And we don't have any long-term studies on COVID, so we don't know what can happen, 5-10 years down the line, even if you recover from COVID. So the reality is we should be looking out for the safety of the players, the safety of the coaches, the safety of team staff, simply because not only are we in the middle of flu season, but this is a holiday season in which people are looking to travel. And all these players, all these coaches, all this team staff, they're looking to be home with their family. Like, who does not want to be home with their family at Christmas time? So it means that you're exposing everyone to the possibility of getting sick. But Brian, you're correct. This is all about money. So I don't expect any of the leagues, maybe the NHL, simply because of how strict Canada is in terms of controlling the virus. But I do not foresee, especially NFL, shutting shop because, one, there's those Christmas Day games, or my Packers play the Browns, really. The NFL is never, ever going to miss out on that money. And the NBA felt the impact of missing out on Christmas Day games. They are never, ever going through that ever again. And the reason they're again, and here is the hard reality we all have to swallow, we, the consumer, do not care about the players. We never did and probably never will. And that's like, we don't care about their safety. That's why we don't look at them as human beings. That's why we don't care about their protests. That's why we don't care about their religious views, their political views. We don't want any of that because we don't see these people as human beings. All of us, whether we want to admit it or not, we want to see these games on TV, whether it costs a life or not. And that's just the sad reality of the situation. I mean, I don't speak for all of us here on the show. I'm quite sure us personally, we care about the safety of these players and the coaches and the coaching staff. The average consumer doesn't. We look at these people as commodities, and that's the same way the NFL owners do. And I don't know if you want to itch and jump back in here, Joe. You seem like you were scratching to say something.
No, I was just scratching. I agree with that. I agree with everything you were saying. Basically, Brian makes a good point too. It's all about money. So at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
Well, speaking about money, Brian is not going to want to hear this because his favorite player was not money on Sunday night. And I mean none other than Tom Brady being shut out for the first time, I want to say, since 2006 against division rival Saints. Without going too much into this game, it is clear, at least to me, that Saints defense has Tom Brady's number, at least in the regular season. I think that's 0-4 in regular season games. So obviously, I have to start with Brian. After that loss, should the defending champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, be concerned moving forward?
Yeah, they should be concerned. Just the simple fact that Chris Godwin is out, so they're going to be much more reliant on Mike Evans, one, to get back and be healthy. Antonio Brown, despite all the stuff, they've already came out and publicly said, we don't care about anything. He's going to be a valuable asset to this football team. And Gronk. So to me, they're going to have to be more reliant on those guys that have, over the course of the last two seasons, been banged up. So everybody else better stay healthy, not to mention Leonard Fournette, because now it seems like you can't be benching Ronald Jones for a fumble. So there's reason for concern. Don't get me wrong. But they have Tom Brady, so that's got to be measured concern.
Joe, are you a little bit more optimistic? Do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just say, oh, well, we don't have to play the New Orleans Saints, or likely don't have to see them in the playoffs, so meh?
Yeah, I think it's just a bump in the road to me. The injuries are concerning, obviously. I think Godwin arguably probably was the best weapon in the team. I mean, he was second in receptions going into the game. I think he had 25 in the span of the last two. So that's a huge loss. But you get Mike Evans back. You have Gronk. You got Antonio Brown. I know the Rojo fumbles, have been concerned, but he's still a good running back. And he's still better than most running backs. So I'm not concerned as much as probably the average, because we've seen Brady do it with less. We really have. There have been Patriots teams, it may be crazy to say, but there weren't too many ballers out there. I mean, he was playing with a lot of just guys that you don't expect to perform really well. So at the end of the day, they have Brady, and as long as he's healthy, I think they still got a chance. They are still a top three in the NFC, still a top three team in the NFC to me.
Well, top three NFC teams, because the number one has to be Packers. That my guy Dwayne Marcus is repping. Dwayne, should the Cats be concerned, or is that just a blip or a bump in the middle of the road?
Yeah, they should be concerned. and I'll be honest with you, I thought they should be concerned when the Cowboys almost beat them opening night. I don't know how you let the Dallas Cowboys come to Tampa Bay and almost beat you, but that's just because I don't like the Cowboys. You've got injuries up and down the roster. The defense has been banged up all season, and this isn't the most opportune time for you to be getting injuries, right? This is, when you look across the NFC, this is when a lot of other teams are getting their players back, right? Like Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb just got back for Dallas. Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott should eventually be 100% by the time the playoffs come around for Dallas. Jair Alexander is supposed to be coming back soon for the Packers. I'm not gonna lie to you, Justin. I screamed like a prepubescent white girl the other day when I was on Instagram and I saw David Bakhtiari running onto the practice field on the Packers Instagram. It made me very happy. It was a very beautiful thing to see, because the offensive line has just sucked so far this season without him. But like when you look around, a lot of the contenders in the NFC, with the exception of really the Cardinals, they're getting all their valuable players, the most important players, back towards the end of the season, and it just looks like the Buccaneers are losing players left and right, and they're dropping like flies. So yeah, it should be concerning. The other thing too is, I was always raised to never bet against Tom Brady, but my quarterback's Aaron Rodgers, and I'm always going to bet on Tom Brady, especially if all his assets aren't there. So yeah, it's really concerning if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now.
I'll go with that. Like, I just figure whatever it is, whether it's because of Marshawn Lattimore and what's the safety, I keep forgetting his name, but
Malcolm Jenkins.
Yes, Malcolm Jenkins. It's clear that that's a matchup problem for them. And the ability for the Saints to get home without having to blitz too much, because they have people like Cam Jordan who can win one-on-ones up front. Like, it's clear that they have the recipe for success on defense, and I'm not sure if there's another team in the NFC that can replicate that. Maybe no, I don't believe in Dallas, but we'll get to that another time. But I don't think there's a defense that can replicate what the Saints do against Tampa Bay. So the actual results against Tampa Bay is not the concern. As all three of you mentioned, it's the injuries, especially losing arguably your favorite target for the rest of the season. You don't know what Mike Evans is going to come back. And now you're going to ask an older Gronk, an older Antonio Brown to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. And again, we don't know if and when Leonard Fournette is returning. And he has become, this season, arguably one of their most important, I'd say, top two important pieces on offense right now. This is not the time of year, as two of you mentioned, to be getting hurt. As you see, the Packers are starting to get healthy. Eventually, Bakhtiari and Jair Alexander are going to return. I don't know if Zadarius Smith ever puts on a Green Bay jersey ever again. I said that early in the season. I'm sticking to that. The Cowboys are getting healthy. Yeah, this is not the time when you're going into playoffs, especially when you're trying to fight for number one seed, where you get an added week of rest. This is not the time to be banged up. So because three of us have rooting interest in the upcoming MVP debate, considering what we saw Sunday night, I have to believe that Brady may have taken a step down in the MVP ladder. I don't know for your MVP ladder, Joe. Right now, who is the front runner for the most valuable player in the NFL?
See, I've been thinking about this all day since you sent this to me. Almost the entire season, I have been saying Brady. Brian and I both on Sports Force have said Brady. And the only holdback that I had with Aaron Rodgers is not necessarily his play. It's just what the public thinks of Aaron Rodgers with all the drama that went through it, that he went through. I don't necessarily see them giving him the award unless he continues to dominate and the Packers get the 1 seed and he maybe have 42 touchdowns and 4 interceptions because he's at 30-4, which is very impressive. But I think if it was any other world, all that stuff and that drama that he went through in that week that he missed out due to COVID, he would be the MVP. But I also think Brady loses a spot here too. I think those are the top two right now. And other than that, I think it's just kind of a race after that. So I guess a long story short, I'd still lean Brady, but only because it's not because of the play. It's just I don't see them giving Aaron Rodgers the award.
For Jonathan Taylor, possibly?
Yeah, he would be my third, and he's been in my head today. I know Derrick Henry had that unbelievable season last year, but I think what Jonathan Taylor is doing is even more impressive because this Colts team was struggling early in the year. We all knew it. And now look at they're winning with Carson Wentz, their most expensive player, throwing the ball 12 times. They beat a Patriots team who was probably the hottest team. Not even. They were the hottest team in the NFL, 7 wins in a row. And I mean, this dude's got 21 total touchdowns. He has 32 total touchdowns in 2 years. What he's doing is insane. He's going to be probably around 1,800 yards with 20 plus touchdowns. So I think he would be the third for sure. But this is a quarterback award. Again, I necessarily don't see him getting it either. So that and another thing for Brady, the advantage, if Brady could even win out the next 3, it makes him look better because, hey, I can do it without Godwin. I could do it without Fournette. I could do it without Evans. Easier said than done. But, yeah, those would be the top 3. I think Taylor definitely has to be mentioned, especially what he did last week.
I'm going to bring you in here, Dwayne, because I know I'm going to have to break up the Brady love. So, Dwayne, you have on a Packers hat. Should I even have to ask you, who's your MVP frontrunner?
I got to be honest. Just before I answer the question, I want to say, I've been sick. So I've been torturing myself by watching ESPN and watching all this other stuff and just the incessant need to put Micah Parsons in this conversation by Mike Irvin and Dominic Foxworth. I just wanted this has nothing to do with the question. I just wanted to say I hate it. Much love to Micah Parsons. I think he's great. He's going to be the Defensive Rookie of the Year. he might even get a vote for Defensive Player of the Year too. But like the comparisons to Lawrence Taylor and saying that he's the closest thing to Lawrence Taylor when we're forgetting about guys like Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett and all the, I don't know about. So I wanted to say that. To answer the question, I actually have Brady as the MVP. And it pains me to say it, and it's probably not good for it's not good for press that I have on a Packers hat, and I'm going to praise Tom Brady here, but like Tom Brady's 44 years old. He's playing lights out, and as much as it pains me to say it, like if Aaron Rodgers just would have said he wasn't vaccinated, right? Then Aaron Rodgers would be the MVP. Like to Joe's point, if you'd have just said, "Oh yeah, I'm not vaccinated," he'd be the MVP because the stats are almost identical, right? They're completing about the same amount of passes. I think Brady's got like maybe 900 more passing yards than him. He's thrown more interceptions and he's thrown more touchdowns. But like Brady also had a really bad game on Sunday, and that was really the one difference to me was that like Aaron Rodgers had his bad game week 1, and Tom Brady hadn't really had a bad game yet until Sunday. Until now, the only gap is how the public views you, and also that you've missed a game. Tom Brady, to like Joe said, is going to have a chance to run the table for these last couple weeks without Chris Godwin, without Leonard Fournette, without Mike Evans for at least 1 or 2 of those games, without AB for however long, whenever AB decides he wants to come back or whatever. So it's Tom Brady, and it pains me to say that because like I wanted all this Packer love for this season because I knew it was going to be over. Like I wanted the MVPs and the Super Bowls and the glitz and the glam before Aaron Rodgers sends me into a string of depression after February. But it's Tom Brady.
Well, Brady, you're going to have to make it Brady three straight answers, right?
It's still Brady. We can't live in the moment too much, factor everything just on the most recent game. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, don't get me wrong, Brady wasn't perfect in the game versus the Saints, but he was actually pretty good despite of everything that was going on. I think the Bucs had 8 drops. Again, he did not play like Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers playing lights out. He's obviously a great quarterback, and he's going to continue to play pretty dang well. I think they have like Raiders, Browns, and Lions left. And to be quite honest with you, the main separator to me is that the Packers are a run-first offense. Like, I know they can always go to Aaron Rodgers. It's much different than how, let's say, the 49ers, who are in a very similar system, right? They run a very similar system, but they have Jimmy G, right? So they protect him a little bit more. But it's that same system, essentially. And then they just have Aaron Rodgers, who takes it completely over the top. But their foundation for their offense is in the run game. The Bucs is squarely on Tom Brady's shoulders. Like, they just sling that thing 50 times. Their run game, I know, has been pretty efficient. But similarly to the Bills of last year, it is so efficient because they throw it so much. So anytime you do that, your run game efficiency is going to go up. I know Leonard Fournette's been much better this year. But to me, it's because of kind of the responsibility for the offense, I think, is much higher for Tom Brady than it is Aaron Rodgers. Not talent level, not even necessarily level of play. I do think, other than the COVID kind of like PR thing going on, that Aaron Rodgers has really all the advantages, not only schedule-wise and the defenses that he plays in his division, but really just the last couple games. Because as we talked about, he's got a pretty easy schedule, at least in terms of the defenses that he's going to face to close out. The Packers are getting healthy. They're hot, and the Bucs are going the opposite direction. I know the Panthers are absolutely no good, but their defense is actually pretty respectable. And again, the Bucs have all their weapons out. But I do think Joe has a valid point in this actually could be a blessing in disguise for the Brady MVP case. If he goes out, wins out, actually puts up pretty good numbers. It wouldn't have to be just respectable. He'd have to probably throw maybe 8 to 10 more touchdown passes without any of those top weapons that could end up helping him. But I think currently this situation is kind of like Brady has a slight edge, but I don't know if you guys watch any F1. I don't watch much NASCAR, but I know F1's been like a big thing. It's kind of like Brady's in the lead, but Rodgers just got new tires, and he's likely to pass him.
So I'm not here to say that y'all are wrong. But it's my show, so I have to make a case for Aaron Rodgers quickly. And it won't be quickly, I'm laying. Here we go. He is leading the league in touchdown to interception ratio, has the best quarterback rating of everyone on the team with the best record. That's number one. But here's where I disagree with what Brian had to say. The schedule was anything but easy because unlike Brady, he had a first place schedule for winning the division last year. And if you take the NFC North games away, and I'm so angry, I can't believe I'm disappointed in Dwayne for not bringing up these points. The two most difficult divisions in all of football. This is not what are the two most difficult divisions in football?
It's the North and the West, but Justin, don't do this.
Hold on, you had a chance.
Don't do this.
No, you had a chance. I gave you a chance. The two toughest divisions in all of football are the AFC North and the NFC West. The Green Bay Packers are one Christmas Day victory away from sweeping both divisions. Both. So I'm going to put that in perspective for all of you here.
Is the AFC North that good? Sorry to cut you off, but
statistically, this season the AFC West has been much better than the AFC North. By the way,
I'll give you my time to shine here. Let's just give me my time here. So let's put this in perspective. The Green Bay Packers went into Arizona and beat the previously undefeated Arizona Cardinals. They went into San Francisco and beat the 49ers in a place that Aaron Rodgers has had little to no success. They beat the LA Rams, almost everyone's chick pick to represent the NFC in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. They went to Cincinnati and Baltimore and beat them in both venues. And the Steelers win is nothing. I'm not high on the Steelers. But those are 6 quality wins. 6 quality wins. And if you beat the Cleveland Browns in prime time on Christmas Day, you have swept arguably the two toughest divisions in all of football with a quarterback who is leading the league in touchdown to interception ratio, who is leading the league in quarterback rating. And in the lone game he did not play, the team mustered mere 7 points in Kansas City. So I have to believe if Aaron Rodgers plays that game, they are more likely to win. I am not telling y'all guys that y'all are wrong, but I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, none other because, our Packers show. And I gave Dwayne the chance to defend our quarterback, and he refused.
So here's just before we move on, because now I feel like I got to defend myself here. Justin, I don't always pick the low-hanging fruit, right? I'm not. Look, I love Aaron Rodgers. I don't think there's anybody that loves Aaron Rodgers more than me, right? You were very consistent about not wanting to talk bad about Aaron Rodgers before your wedding because you wanted him to come to your wedding, right? And it seems like now that it's after your wedding, you just still won't talk bad about him. Look, listen, I love Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is great. I just don't think at this moment he's leading the MVP race. And might I add, you don't get to make me look like a bad Packers fan because I didn't pick the Packers quarterback to be MVP. You can't do that. That's not fair. Of course. Of course.
The post-COVID episode where you ripped Aaron Rodgers a new one, so that would not be exactly correct in saying I don't have an issue with Aaron Rodgers because I may like the quarterback, but the human being is another question for another day. But as you mentioned, I think all of us do have Jonathan Taylor third in our MVP rankings. With that being said, do we think that the team is a title contender? Joel, I'll start with you. Do you think the Colts are true contenders? I'm not sure. Joe, did you hear me?
Yeah. My bad. It cut off. I do think the Colts are contenders. Definitely. I think they're right now, I would say as of this moment, they're a top 3 team in the AFC. And I don't even blink an eye with that. They have a complete team. And I think their biggest issue is Carson Wentz. What can he do? Can he excel his game in the playoffs in a big time situation? That still isn't answered because we haven't seen it, because he was out in the Super Bowl run and then he gets hurt right away in the other playoff run, and Josh McCown has to go play a game. So we haven't seen what he can do in big moments. But if you just look up and down this team, this is a top 5 defense. This is a top 5 offensive line. They have the best running back in football. They have one of the better young receivers, I think, in Michael Pittman. And they have a really, really good coach in Frank Reich. Frank Reich's a top 5 coach right now, what he's been able to do. And this is just a good organization. You go from the top to the bottom. I mean, Chris Ballard's a tremendous GM. I'm really high on the Colts. They had a tough start, but they also had a tough schedule, and they kind of found their identity. We didn't really think listen, they were missing their quarterback and their best offensive lineman before the season started with the same identical injury. They're finding their identity now. That is run first, let Taylor take over the game, and good defense and good running games that can help you win a playoff game, especially when you're likely to travel on the road. I really think the Colts can make a run here. I'm not going to say they're going to the Super Bowl by any means. I still think they're a few pieces away. I don't think they're as talented as Kansas City. And I think if the Patriots had another crack at it, it would be a very close game, and I'd probably lean towards the Patriots winning a second matchup if there was to be. But I'm really high on the Colts, and I think they're going to continue to dominate, and Jonathan Taylor's going to continue to just put the league in notice and just keep on putting up video game stats.
I see you nodded in approval, Brian, so I'm guessing you feel the same way.
Me and Joe have been high on the Colts ever since they were like 0-3. This is a good team. We've been fans of Frank Reich, but also that defense is elite. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's been great. I will say, I'm going to take just a quick moment to say, yeah, we can say he's third in the MVP, but he's not under real consideration. One, I would be a little bit bitter if he won, because Derrick Henry, in my opinion, had a better year and didn't get a single vote. And we could get into that's a whole different conversation. But to me, people have a problem with it being a quarterback award. I don't. A quarterback is just infinitely more valuable than any other position. So I have no problem with that. But the Colts remind me, I think Dwayne mentioned Joe Flacco and the Ravens. That might have been a conversation off screen, but that's what this team reminds me of. Like, they have the great defense, they can run the ball, and then you have Carson Wentz, who is kind of Joe Flacco-esque. Like, hey, if it's good Carson Wentz, then yeah, this team's going to go on a run, and he could get hot. He also could be, Joe Flacco just throwing picks out there. So to me, this is the wild card team. I would consider them a threat without a doubt.
I also saw you shaking your head, Dwayne, so you obviously don't believe that the Colts are true contenders.
Well, they are, but first of all, I don't have Jonathan Taylor in my top 3 MVP odds. I'll be honest. I don't even have him in the top 5, but that's another conversation for another day. I mean, to Brian's point, I love me some Derrick Henry. If you're going to give Jonathan Taylor the award, we need to go back in time. As much as I love Aaron Rodgers, we would have to give Derrick Henry the award last season because his season last season was just fantastic. But like, when you've got an award like this, there's a reason. There's only been 18 times, I think, in the history of the in the NFL that someone that wasn't a quarterback won the award. Like, there's a reason. It's just because, like Brian said, quarterbacks are too valuable. But are the Colts contenders? Absolutely. Jonathan Taylor will take home hardware this year. He'll be the offensive player of the year. This defense is great. I've loved this defense. Here's the thing. Justin laughed at me at the beginning of the season because at the beginning of the season, I told Justin that this game against the Patriots was going to make or break the Colts' season and their playoff push. What'd they do? They won the game, which I said they would do. Justin laughed at me. I don't appreciate being laughed at. So I'm glad that I'm here to make fun of you for that, because I told you that it was going to happen and you didn't believe me. Yeah, they're contenders, right? You're looking at Taylor. He's got a little over 1,500 yards. He's got 17 touchdowns. He's got, like, I think 250 some odd carries, leads the league in all of those 3 stats. And Carson Wentz has quietly had a pretty good season, right? He's completing 63% of his passes. He's thrown for 3,000 yards. He's got over 20 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. Like, he's playing good. And to Brian's point, all this really takes in terms of to the next level. I think all the pieces are here. I think the reason why this made so much sense for Carson Wentz to go to Indianapolis, aside from Frank Reich, the Frank Reich component, was all the pieces for a championship contention in the AFC at least is there. I don't see why they can't make a run. It's just all about what Carson Wentz can do, right? We haven't seen Carson Wentz do it. He got injured when they won the Super Bowl. The year after, he gets injured again. The year after that, he's taken out of the playoffs again because of the concussion. So we haven't seen Carson Wentz play good playoff football. We've seen Carson Wentz play really good regular season football, and in an AFC conference that's just been up, down, left, and right, and it's like there's a new best team in the AFC. What it seems to be every other minute. There's no reason why the Colts can't make a run at it, right? The Chiefs can lose to anybody. The Patriots can clearly lose to the Colts. So, yeah, to the Colts and contenders. And quite honestly, I just wouldn't be surprised if the Colts are in the Super Bowl because, like, it's the AFC and they've got all the pieces. It's just the big fat question mark of what kind of Carson Wentz are we getting?
And that's my problem why I'm going to stop short. I agree with everything y'all said, but my biggest issue is at the quarterback position, and you can't have that question mark if you're going to make a run at the Super Bowl in this era. Yes, y'all pointed to the fact that Baltimore did it with Joe Flacco, but I don't think with the litany of good quarterbacks, that you can get away with it, especially in the conference that has Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I don't think you can get away with that. But I will bring the stats to support your argument. They've won 5 of the last 6 games. I think they are 3rd in interceptions, 6th in forced fumbles, 1st in fumble recoveries, which makes them 1st in takeaways altogether. They lead the league in rush yards, in yards per carry, in rushing touchdowns. And to your point, Carson Wentz is not the reason they lose games anymore. He has 23 touchdowns, which is better than Kyler Murray. He has only 4 interceptions, which is better than Kyler Murray. He has only a couple fumbles, 4 or 5, again, better than Kyler Murray. I'm doing that just because I know one panel is not a Kyler Murray fan, so I just purposely do. But I say all that to see the defense travels, and they're elite on all 3 levels now that they're fully healthy. Run game travels. So you would think, yeah, this is a contending team, especially if their quarterback is not turning over the football. My only issue comes late in a playoff game. Are all 4 of us comfortable seeing that their quarterback is not going to turn over the football? Are all 4 of us comfortable seeing that? And the answer is no. No.
I'm comfortable in saying it. I'm so serious. I'm not daring to be. I'm so serious. I'm a fan of Carson Wentz. I'm probably not a bigger fan of Carson Wentz as Mr. Moonwalk. That's what I call him, Dan Orlovsky over there on ESPN and NFL Live. I'm not gonna like fight you over it, but I am because I think as long as Carson Wentz doesn't have to make a really drastic decision, he's gonna make the right one. Right, like if he's playing behind the best offensive line in football, like as long as he's got the time and as long as like he's not under constant duress, yeah, he's going to make the best decision. I mean, you say that for all quarterbacks, but specifically with Carson Wentz, as long as he is not like panicking and not trying to process and do at the same time, which is I think was his downfall and the tail end of his career in Philadelphia. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Maybe, but I'll reserve my comments for after a game where he's asked to win a game with a 2-minute drive to finish a football game. Come back to me then and tell me that Carson Wentz is a guide to lead you to a playoff victory. If the football is in his hands at the end of a football game, I don't know. I also don't know about the Cardinals, and that's who the Colts have up next. And they have lost their last 2 games, and I think 3 of their last 5 since holding the top seed in the NFC. So Brian, this time I'll start with you. What's going wrong with Arizona?
It seems like deja vu. A little bit different variety, but this has been the trend for the Arizona Cardinals. They come out, they're hot, they're flashy, but it just seems like fool's gold. And, I've been saying that since the beginning of the season. I know Cliff Kingsbury has been like a coach of the year front runner for most of the season, but I still just have my reservations about him. I have my reservations about Kyler Murray. I like the player, but it just seems like this is too much of a trend. He comes out hot, he gets hurt, and the play deteriorates. And overall, I think the offense just relies far too much on the play breaking down. Like that's when they have their most success, when the play breaks down. And I just think that that's too erratic, that you aren't going to be consistent. And that's really what we've seen from the Cardinals over the last 2 years, just inconsistency. I don't think that that's necessarily we can write them off completely, but I think they're in a different category than the Bucs, the Rams, and the Packers at least. And I would probably put the Cowboys over them as well, just because of the defense. And I do think Dak Prescott is going to bounce back. The Cardinals, I think, are fool's gold. And to be quite honest with you, I think there are teams in the NFC that want to play them in the playoffs. Yeah.
Joe, do you feel the same way as this team fool's gold?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Just like Brian, I was never high on the Cardinals. I think this is like a regular season feel-good team. And last year we saw identical thing. And just yesterday was just I don't know. It just made me feel like, yeah, this team is not that good. Like, yeah, you always have a dumpster game. It just has to happen. You play 17 games. But if you told me that Kyler Murray was going to throw the ball 41 times against the Lions, I would have laughed in your face. And that's exactly what he did. I just, this offense doesn't have that identity. Like a guy like James Conner, he gets 8 carries. He's having a pretty damn good season. He's probably 4 yards a rush. He has 14 touchdowns. How do you give him the ball 8 times? I just think they have to get that identity. They don't have that. And DeAndre Hopkins, whether you could say anything about him, that he has declined over the last 2 years, which I agree, but that's still a big loss. And I'm not high on Kingsbury at all. When it comes down to playoffs, you got to have the best quarterback and the best coach on the field. They're going to have neither, because you look at it, Rodgers is better, Brady is better, Dak is better. I'd even put Stafford right now as better. So that's 4 guys right off the bat. And then after that, it kind of gets a little weird in the NFC, but they're going to have to play a Cowboys or maybe a Buccaneers team with all the injuries. And they don't want to play those teams. And they're not, like I've been saying, and I actually told my buddies, I have a bet in place here. The Cardinals will not win a playoff game. I don't care who they play. They will not win a playoff game. I feel so confident about that bet. So, yeah, I just think this was a team that I expected to decline. I wasn't going to expect them to decline in the regular season more so and lose against the Lions, but they got some issues, and I think it will continue and definitely won't bode well for them in the playoffs.
I can just jump in real quick, just along that point, because I see that brought up on social media a lot, not only for the Cardinals, but multiple teams where, you know, they're losing a game and it's like the running back had 5 carries. What's going on? And to me, it's all about, in moments of adversity, trust people to be themselves. Like, people are always going to revert back to what they're comfortable with. And for Cliff Kingsbury, ball around. Right? Another example would be Bruce Arians. Like, when things get tough, he's aggressive. He's going to be ultra aggressive. You Packers fans are familiar with that. We'll keep it to that same game. Matt LaFleur, right? It is Matt LaFleur, not Mike LaFleur.
It's Matt LaFleur, yeah.
When it comes down to it. And be ready for that. If it's these playoffs and if they do get in the situation, he's going to be conservative. I would be shocked if he wasn't, because we've seen him do it. People are going to revert back to what's comfortable for them with LaFleur, almost regardless of who's the quarterback, which is mind-blowing. But I think that's what we see with the Cardinals. They revert back to who they really are in moments of adversity.
There's a reason they didn't start or even put my good friend Dwayne Marcus in the middle, because I know that a Cliff Kingsbury rant is about to come. Take it away.
First of all, sorry, my mic was muted. First of all, let's just start off with the fact that once again, about a month or so ago, maybe a little bit more, I came on Justin's show and I told Justin that the Cardinals are not going to be at all that good this season. In fact, I was the only one on a panel with Justin and Steve A. Smith and Guru that said that the Cardinals were going to finish last in the division. Now, I was wrong about that, and I'll take it. But the Cardinals still suck. Like, let's not let the record fool you here. The Cardinals still suck. They still lack experience. Cliff Kingsbury is still bad at his job. I said a couple months ago that I wouldn't trust Cliff Kingsbury coaching my fantasy football team. I still stand by that. wouldn't trust anybody that loses to the Detroit Lions to coach my fantasy football team, if I'm being quite honest with you. But when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, right, the issue is, number one, Kyler Murray just looks so out of whack. It's ridiculous. This offense doesn't have an identity, which doesn't make sense because they've got James Conner, who is a really good running back. You've got Kyler Murray, who's very, very talented, but they don't have an identity, right? Like, at least even the bad teams, and not to like call out Joe here, but like even a team like the Jets, like they're bad, but like the Jets have an identity within their badness, right? The Jaguars, they've got an identity in their terribleness. The Lions have forged an identity over the last 2 weeks, even though they are also hot garbage. The Cardinals have won 10 games and they don't have an identity, and they're going to be going into the playoffs against a team like the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Los Angeles Rams, even like that have identities that have proven to be successful, right? You don't win 3 straight division titles and win double-digit games 3 years in a row if you're the Green Bay Packers without some type of identity. Right now, we all know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' identity is just Tom Brady, but still, that's a very good identity to have in and of itself, right? The Cowboys, as much as I hate them, they have an identity, and when it wants to work, it works, and when it doesn't want to work, it doesn't work. But that's, again, look, the Cardinals are nice, right? And they've got like all the flashy new toys, right? They brought in G.O.A.T, who's hurt, and D-Hop was there, but now he's hurt. Like, they don't really have a wide receiver. Oh yeah, they traded for Zach Ertz. That's great, veteran presence at tight end for a young quarterback. I've always said that's a beautiful thing to have, but like, he's not really going to be a game changer come playoff time. So it's like, what are we really talking about here for the Arizona Cardinals? I thought that the Cowboys weren't going to win a playoff game this season. I still stand by that. I still don't think they win a playoff game. I don't think the Cardinals are going to win a playoff game either unless the Cardinals and the Cowboys play each other. And the only reason one of them will win is because when the playoffs, somebody has to win. But, yeah.
I won't eat too much trash on the Cardinals other than to say that run defense is bad. And I don't think that gets enough credit. It really is bad to the point they're giving up, I think, 4.6 yards per carry. And for whatever it's worth, Kyler Murray has regressed. But as Brian and Joe said, that's just the norm towards the end of the season, because over the last 2 games, he's thrown 3 picks and only 1 interception. And one of those games is against the Downwell Lions. And the other against a Rams secondary that is not only banged up and injured, but has not really been good all season. So I'll leave it at that. So for my favorite segment to close out, I really, really wanted this one. And so I have to start with the coach on the program, which is, for those who don't know, none other than Brian Bolster. We've seen a situation now, 2 of their last 3 games, Baltimore Ravens lost for not executing the 4th down play at the very end of the game. And I think they also missed a 2-point conversion in a 1-score loss to the Cleveland Browns in between that. And then the shocker of all shockers, Brandon Staley, on Thursday night, going for it, I want to say 5 times and sacrificing, leaving, I think, 9 points on the field. Was not a great week for analytics whatsoever, Brian. So as the coach on the show, are analytics being overused?
That's tough to say, because to me, it's all about, like, what are the analytics for your team? Don't give me just a broad statement or data sheet of analytics, because they're different for each team. Like, one thing I was just talking about with a coach I know is on 4th down is a whole different ball game. One, if your quarterback's really good, but in particular, I was talking about if you have a quarterback who's a running threat, that is completely different, and I think changes the game. And I think that's why we've seen John Harbaugh be so aggressive. I think that's why we've seen Brandon Staley be so aggressive, is because who they have at quarterback. I know for the Ravens, there's been multiple reasons. One, the defense. And so I would back up John Harbaugh. I would back up Staley from the standpoint that the Chargers have been cursed by bad kicking for like decades, and it's his MO. Like, they go for it. The team knows it. That's their thing. They're going to go for it. And field goals aren't a guarantee. I'm an offensive guy. So I think that plays into it as well. You're typically going to see the offensive coaches be more aggressive and be more analytical when it comes to going for it on fourth down, 2-point conversions. And especially offensive coaches, you're going to find to be pretty anti-field goal. Like 3 points, I'm not a big fan of that, especially when the other sideline has a Patrick Mahomes, especially when the other sideline has an Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't want to go to OT with that. So I do think it's being overused in some situations, but I just think we have to think bigger and think better than just the term analytics. Like, what are they for your team? And really get into the nuances of it. I think what the problem has been, particularly from the media, has been just looking at it too surface level and an all or nothing. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Same thing, Dwayne. Are analytics being overused?
Well, I mean, analytics is a double-edged sword, right? Because if Lamar Jackson completes the 2-point conversion against the Steelers, and if Tyler Huntley completes the pass on Sunday against us, right? And if Brandon Staley and the Chargers, if they convert on all those fourth downs, right, then we're not talking about analytics being overused. We're talking about whether or not more teams should use them, right? So it really just all depends, right? And I think in this particular instance, we're talking about it in such a negative light because these teams have lost because of analytics, right? But like, here's the thing. You don't play for overtime. You play to win the football game. Like, generally, because of the way that the rules of overtime work in the NFL, you're not guaranteed to see the ball again in overtime. So yeah, you put it all on the line in the 60 minutes of regular time that you have, no matter what happens. I love it. I will say this. I was a little bit harsh on Brandon Staley because I thought that while, like, yeah, like, you want to be aggressive when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes because it's Patrick Mahomes, but that's like the old Patrick Mahomes, right? This season's Patrick Mahomes, he hasn't given us a reason really to be concerned about being able to put up points in bunches in such a short amount of time like he was able to do in that playoff run when they went to the Super Bowl in 2019, right? So, like, why you don't kick those field goals, aside from, the fact that all of the kickers for the Chargers have just sucked for some reason over the past couple of years, baffles me. No. I'll also say this again. I don't have to make these decisions. I don't get paid to make these decisions. So whatever I have to say about analytics means a lot less than what Brian has to say about analytics because he makes these decisions. So it didn't really matter what I say. But no, I don't think they're being overused. I think this is just what happens, right? Like, and we have this conversation with football and basketball and hockey. Like it's just, well, not so much hockey, but like, analytics are, it's as an analytics guy, I love seeing analytics take over. But then it's also like, yeah, well, if you do it too much, then people look at you and are like, are you really good at your job? But then if it's working, it's like, oh, well, he's great. So it's just a double-edged sword altogether. There's no right or wrong.
Jump in real quick. I think he hit the nail on the head. Like, it's not really the decisions, I think, that are being judged. It's the outcomes. And it's like whether it works or not. Not is the decision good. It's just, did it work? And one other thing, because he got into the decision making, like, into the moment. I was watching a football game with my brother, and there's a team, I want to say, I forget the team now, but they completely messed up. I think it might have been the Titans, but they messed up some time management, like in a really kind of obvious way. Actually, it was App State Mountaineers, my alma mater. I was watching that ball game. Nobody else probably was. But the point is, they messed up time management thing, and I said it immediately. I'm just sitting on the couch watching the TV, and he was like, "How did they miss that?" But you knew that right away. I'm like, well, it's completely different. Like, I'm sitting on the couch. There's no stress. I'm drinking, my drink. I'm relaxed. And I'm seeing this from a perspective that's widened. Like, it's just a lot easier. I told him when you're down there in the game, and that's not the only decision that you have to make either. There's 10 other decisions that go into that. Like, it's happening so fast. And I think that's the other kind of missing component is it's a lot more complicated than what we see on the TV.
I'll take all that before I finally give my take. But Joe, was this a real bad weekend for the supporters of analytics?
I wouldn't say it was bad. I mean, I think it's all about the circumstance. Brandon Staley's been doing this all year, and he did it way back in the beginning of the year, and they beat the Chiefs because of it. It was 4th and 3. They could have kicked the field goal to take the lead. What did he do? He went for it. He scored the touchdown, gave them under a minute, and Mahomes couldn't get it done. So, like, he's had success with it. And this team's a playoff team, I think, because of it. So I don't have any issue. I like the aggressiveness. And I still with John Harbaugh too. Look at the circumstances he's under. I mean, they were down 14 late. They climbed back with their backup quarterback, and they're basically their backup team. I mean, this is the most injured team in the NFL, and you got to go against Aaron Rodgers in another quarter, essentially. So I think like last week with the Steelers, it's a little more head scratching because Lamar Jackson is there, or 2 weeks ago rather, because Lamar Jackson was there. But still, I think it's all about the circumstance. So I wouldn't say it's very bad, mainly because you have to look at the guys you're playing, the situation you're in, who's healthy, who's not. And I'll say it again, the Chargers have had success with it. Like, this is Brandon Staley. Like, this is his identity as a coach. He's going to be aggressive. And we've seen coaches do that, and we've seen them fail. Like back a few years ago when the Panthers were relevant, Ron Rivera was a guy that he was aggressive. They called him Riverboat Ron because of it, because he's aggressive. He's going to go for it. And guess what? He had success and he had downfalls. I think that just goes with any decision you have as a coach. And Brian can attest, it's not easy to make those decisions on the fly, especially if you're John Harbaugh. Man, I don't think anyone thought the Ravens had an opportunity to win that game. I didn't. I did not. I don't think anyone in their right mind did, because Huntley probably found out he was starting an hour and a half before the game because Lamar Jackson was still questionable, had a chance to play, and you're playing the hottest team in the NFL. And same with the Chargers. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs haven't been the Chiefs, but they've still won, 7 games in a row now? They're 10-4. They're at the top of the AFC now. Like, that was a huge game. That was for the division. So I don't think it was necessarily like a bad week for analytics. You're going to have your success. You're going to have your failures. The same thing, like baseball is the same thing. Like, everyone looks into the analytics side. Some teams don't, and some teams have success with it, and some teams obviously don't. So I wouldn't say it's total failure. And I would back up Harbaugh and Staley as well, because they've been doing this during the season. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm just going to go for it just because.
So I'll get to that. Like everything else, not all things are created equal. So with John Harbaugh, because of what his team is, I agree with him going for it in both situations. Maybe not so the Packers, because I felt like they under something with Huntley and they had all the momentum going in. I mean, granted, you all are correct. It's still a coin toss, and you really don't want to give Aaron Rodgers back in football, especially I think we scored on 5 of our 7 possessions in that game. So the numbers are telling you you're not going to stop the Packers if they win the coin toss. And against the Steelers, they were playing the utter trash. And so you get your situation. Just finish the game when you have a chance, because, again, the whole game told you that Lamar Jackson, the offense, was not moving the ball anyway. So just finish the game when you have a chance. But here I'm telling you situations. And my issue really is with Brandon Staley, more so than analytics, because it's almost like he's saying, I am going to go for it each and every time. And the game situation should dictate to you who you're playing, the situation you're in, and the game flow. And I feel like as coach, he ignores all of that. So to get to what Marcus and Joe were saying, this is not the same Chiefs, and I'll point to it, 8 wins in a row. But if you take up both Raiders outliers, and they really are outliers, Patrick Mahomes has 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in that span. All of his points have really came against that bad Las Vegas Raiders team. And I'm going to shout out to Joe Morley for making Patrick Mahomes look relevant again, because only his team would find a way to do that. In that game against the Chiefs, they are struggling to score at that point. Imagine if you had those 9 points, or even if 6 of those 9 points, because as y'all mentioned, the Chargers really have a bad history with kickers. If you have 6 of those 9 points, we're talking about a different situation or a different scenario altogether. Brandon Staley is like, he does not look at game scenarios. He doesn't look at situations. His excuse is, this is who I am, and we go for it. Unlike John Harbaugh, who can turn around at any game and explain, well, we're down all of our corners, or I can't stop Aaron Rodgers, or Lamar, we weren't really doing well on offense, so this is a situation, and you can understand his thinking behind it. It's like Brandon Staley is controlled and ruled by analytics, and that is my problem. You can use them, but you can't be a slave to them. Slave though to the last segment of the show, so we'll close up quickly. And yes, the other 3 people don't know about this, but I add a quick segment every show now called "You Bet You Didn't Know That the World of Sports Revolve Around Barbados." Now, we talked about the Ravens and John Harbaugh before, and I'm not sure when last they won a Super Bowl. Someone correct me. Was it, 2000 and when was it, guys?
2012?
2012 was the last time the Ravens have won a Super Bowl, and John Harbaugh's men have not been back since. What you guys did not know, the year that the Ravens won a Super Bowl, for 6 games, their starting left tackle was none other than Ramon Harewood. And that name does not mean anything to you, but Ramon Harewood and bred Barbadian. Actually went to school at my alma mater, Queen's College. So this proves to you guys, indeed, another segment in which the sports world does revolve around Barbados. So, gentlemen, first I will start with the Sports Force duo. It's been a bad day. The Sports Force duo, guys. Tell the kind folks where to find you and what you have coming up next.
I guess I'll go. Yeah, Brian and I are on YouTube every Tuesday. We'll have a new episode tomorrow. So we usually go live on YouTube every Tuesday at the Warzone Sports Network. You can catch us live, or you can catch us just on YouTube. If you go subscribe to the network, we'll be there every week, just shooting it up, talking about football mostly, and just giving our opinions.
And who also has a great show is my other guest or family member, indeed, Dwayne Marcus. Tell the kind folks where to find you and what you have coming up next.
I'll be quite honest with you. I have no idea what I have coming up next. Because Saturday is Christmas. I haven't made a decision if I'm doing the show or not. I have no idea what's up next. But you can follow me on Instagram at GTPMarcus, on Twitter under the same name. And starting January 1st on TikTok under the same name too. So you can just go to TikTok, look me up. The account's already made. There's no videos, no likes, no nothing. It's just blank, but it's there. So go check it out. Other than that, that's about it. I've been working on a Super Bowl special for February that Justin knows nothing about, but he's going to be a part of, so now he knows. But that's in February. Outside of that, though, it's this year's been great. I've been on this show probably way too many times for you guys to appreciate, but it's all right, because I love all of you. And it's always a pleasure to come here. I love working with Brian. I've worked with him a handful of times, but I'm sure we'll work together again down the road. And I'm sure my path, Joe and I's path will cross again sometime down the line. And you know me, Justin won't leave me alone. So I'll be back here one day, whenever that is.
And folks, unlike last week, we will never leave you again. So you can find us on Instagram. That's at @thisjustin. On Twitter, where I humbug none other than Brian Bolster every day when he brings out his Tom Brady tweets. I like to poke and tease him. That's one on Twitter, and here on YouTube every Monday night live, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 in the Caribbean. So for Joe Scurto, Brian Bolster, and our friend Dwayne Marcus, I am the Justin of #ThisJustin. Please enjoy Monday Night Football and have a Merry Christmas if you never hear me before that. And we are signing out. Good night, everyone.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with the king, no matter, you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up
question. Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.